Welcome to State Matters. I'm your host, Matt Muratore. Today, we will be discussing arts and culture with the chair of the Plymouth Bay Cultural District, Andrew Botieri. Thanks, Andrew, for joining me today. I really appreciate that.
Thanks, Matt.
So we usually start the show as who our guests are. So tell us who Andrew Botieri is.
Oh, geez, that's a loaded question.
And you and I go way back for a disclaimer.
We go,
went to school
yes,
together.
back to high school.
Yeah.
Though I think I was a couple of years old, a couple classes ahead of you.
Yeah.
My name's
At
Andrew
least.
Yeah, exactly. No, just the two. Don't
Okay.
even go there. Don't even try. My name's Andrew Botieri, and I am currently chair of the Plymouth Bay Cultural District. I also have my own business, Total Peak Performance, where I do business coaching, motivational speaking on leadership, sales, and customer service.
How long have you been doing that?
Oh, gosh, between running companies and actually doing a startup.com company that actually traded on the NASDAQ, which was kind of cool.
Really?
I've been doing business coaching and leading teams, sales teams for close to 30 years.
Oh, wow, good for you.
Yeah.
So what was this company you had?
Well, I was part of it. It
Yeah.
was called All Apartments. It was one of the first apartment listing services, so you could actually go online, search for an apartment by area, by square footage, by rents. You know, and today, everything, whether it's an apartment or a home, everything now is done web-based. So we were one of the first. And in '98, we started it, and with Mike Mueller, who was the founder, I came on as vice president of sales and operations. We were then purchased by, well, it was a marriage, because we had a venture capitalist who both did Realtor.com and our company, and they married the two of us, as most venture capitalists will do if the companies have some synergy, and created Homestore.com. It then became Move.com, and we took it public in August of '98.
Okay. And where are you living nowadays?
I'm back home in America's hometown
great.
of Plymouth, Massachusetts.
Because you've lived all over.
Yeah, gosh, I grew up in Hanson,
Yeah.
on the South
Yeah.
Shore here, and where I still have a sister, but my dad was the town barber for 58 years.
Oh, that's right.
There, and the
yeah.
Little League field's named after him.
Yeah, that's right.
From there, I then moved
This
to...
show does air like in Kingston and Pembroke and some other towns.
Some will
so
say I drive by,
they'll remember it,
by the field.
Yeah.
And then from there, I went out to Phoenix, Scottsdale, then to Southern California, then to Philadelphia, back to Scottsdale, to San Francisco, back to Scottsdale, and then I eventually said, I've made my mark on the world, it's time to come back home and you know, just kind of kick it back a notch or two.
Yeah, and we're glad you came back.
Well, I am too.
Yeah, we're glad you came back. And you actually also have a famous relative in Plymouth here.
Yes, I do. Does he owe you any money?
No, he doesn't.
That's my pat answer. People say, are you related to the chief? I go, does he owe you any money? And they go, no. I go, yeah, that he's my cousin.
Yeah, Mike Botieri, the chief of police in Plymouth,
great
is your
guy.
cousin. Yeah,
Great
yeah,
guy.
Yeah, and you guys have the same sense of humor, so I can see why. Yeah.
That definitely runs in the
Yeah.
family.
So you actually, and thank you so much for this autographed copy of this book. You actually wrote a book.
Well, see, Spellman Education, see what it did for me?
That's right, you didn't tell people you went to school.
Yeah,
Where'd you go to
Cardinal
school?
Spellman.
Yeah, and where'd you go to college?
I went to 2 years at Massasoit, and then the last 2 years out at North Adams.
Okay, great. Yeah, so tell us about this book, A Celebration of Life.
Well, the book was and it really transpired during the startup. I became or had been a workaholic. I think it's that work ethic that we've all grown up with as kids. And I was working 80 hours a week, 7 days a week. I wasn't taking care of myself, and just dealt with a lot of stress, especially, you know, dealing with venture capitalists in doing the startup company. You know, one of our principals was William Randolph Hearst III. He used to sit next to me in board meetings, but he was part of Kleiner Caulfield and Byers, which was the #1 internet company to take, venture capitalist companies to take internet companies public. They took Google public, Amazon public, AOL public, and they also were able to take us public. But it was very stressful, and so with that stress and not working out, not eating right, not taking care of myself, the stress built up inside of me. And the analogy that I like to use is I had a balloon, and when I'm up on stage talking about the book, I keep blowing up the balloon every time I talk about stressful things, and then I pop the balloon, and that's sort of what happened to me. I contracted a rare autoimmune disease called scleroderma, and in June of 2000, it shut my kidneys down, went into renal failure, coma, and I had a blood pressure of 270 over 170.
I'm sorry. 270?
270 over 170.
I don't think I've ever heard of that before.
Doctors didn't either. And they pretty much said that, I was on my own, and by the grace of God and prayers from thousands of people and my own sheer determination, that 28 hours later I came out of my coma, spent 6 months on dialysis, and was able to actually kickstart the kidneys again. I've only got about 40–50% kidney function, but I'm just thankful to be alive, and it really set me on a path of introspection and, really what was important in life. And I was, as we all know, we're out there chasing the money, the position, the prestige, and I was chasing the wrong things. I was going after the golden ring when I should have been more focused on balance in my life and, really giving back. And that's why now I do a lot of volunteer work, is just because I think it's important to do that.
And do you think it was from all this, the way you treat your body, your life, that really caused this, or is there something else that triggers that?
No, well, it's a disease that they don't know what causes it. There's no cure. It roughly affects 300,000 people. 80% of those are female, so as I like to say up on stage is, sure, I had to go out and get a chick's disease.
I don't think you can say that nowadays, though.
I still do, though. You know me. I'm not the most politically correct person.
At least I can't say
Yeah, you can't. But it is very debilitating. Most of it's on the outside, where you're basically, what happens is, like when you cut yourself, the scar tissue that covers that wound is actually collagen. Well, in people living with scleroderma, when it's active, so it's like it's almost like, when cancer goes into remission or cancer is aggressive. Well, with us, our ANA, which is our anti-nuclear antibodies, act up, and it basically, our body attacks itself. So we overproduce collagen, and then that collagen basically, most of the time, gets into your low density areas, your hands, your feet, but it can go throughout your body, and it actually starts to crystallize and harden. Basically, the Greek word scleroderma literally means hard skin.
Wow.
And so...
well, you are lucky to be here then, yeah.
Yeah, that, and then in 2014, my mom passed, and within about a few months, I started getting finger ulcers from a stressful event. And now I've got some lung issues, but they're not bad. But it's just something that, us living with scleroderma, just, you got to deal with it. And it's my cross that I bear. I'm a big advocate for it. We do a walk on the Plymouth waterfront down at Nelson Beach.
Do you really? Okay.
So June 10th of this year will be our 10th anniversary of doing the Walk for a Cure for scleroderma.
Okay.
And it's something that we raise on average between $20,000 and $25,000. All the money that all the walks nationally do, and both the National Foundation and the New England chapter are all based here in Massachusetts, but everything goes towards research.
That's terrific. Well, thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it. And the book talks about this.
It talks about that, but it also gets into, just again, being the workaholic, but also about, and that's why the subtitle is A Story of Hope, a Miracle, and the Power of Attitude, because in any adversity we have, I don't care whether it's scleroderma, cancer, financial issues, marital issues, or whatever, that there's hope. You got to have hope in life today.
Yeah.
And then also, of course, the power of prayer, but also the power of attitude. As you and I know, attitude can move a mountain.
Absolutely, yeah. And the back cover indicates, it's interesting. It says, what would you do differently if this was your last day? And you actually lived that.
Almost lived it.
And did it.
Yeah.
And you told us what you did for
and
when you
it
thought it was your
definitely,
last day.
Matt, it definitely changes your perspective
Yeah.
on what you used to think was important and what really is important.
I assume people can get this on Amazon?
Or you can go to my website, andrewbotieri.com.
A celebration of life, so get that.
Yep, celebration of life.
Story.
And
good.
Every copy is autographed, and a portion of each book sale goes towards the New England Scleroderma Foundation.
That's terrific. Good for you. So let's switch gears a little bit then. Let's go to what changed your life into giving back, as you indicated. And you started getting involved with the Plymouth Bay Cultural District. But let's talk about what the Plymouth Bay Cultural District and how the Mass Cultural Council actually kickstarted this.
Well, I was on a committee through Project Arts with Mike Landers. And that's sort of where I got my first taste into working for a nonprofit. I've always been in the corporate world, of course, the profit world, which runs a little bit differently. And so when I came back here, I just felt it was important to give back. It took me about a year to get on my feet, so I was doing Meals on Wheels, which, let me tell you, if anybody ever wants to volunteer their time, there's not a better rewarding thing to do than Meals on Wheels.
Absolutely.
I mean, it was a blast.
Yeah, and it's very little time too.
Yeah.
Very little time. You could take an hour out of your day. You can only do it once a month if you want, or once a week or whatever. But yeah, absolutely.
And sometimes the elderly people who you bring meals to, you may be their only contact.
That's right.
For a whole day, or for a couple days.
Right, right.
And I got jazzed with that because I had a couple people who were just, one guy would say, hey, can you sit down and watch some of the Red Sox games with me? So I'd sit down and watch an inning, and then I had to run to deliver the other meals. And so, through Project Arts, I was on a committee for the Plymouth Bay Cultural District. And then as Kim Corbin, who was the executive director for the Plymouth Philharmonic, as she started getting more involved and had to get more involved with that, there was an opening for the chair position. And of course, Mike Landers loves to volunteer. Me. So the next thing I know is that I'm now the chair. And
so Kim was the first chair of the Plymouth Bay Culture.
Actually, I think it might have been, who is Vinny's assistant up at the State House?
Monica Mullen?
Monica and Deb.
And Deb.
I think they kind of formed it initially.
Okay, yeah.
Then Kim took it over.
Yep.
And then 2 years ago, January of 2016, is when I came in as chair.
Okay. And talk about how it got developed and the Mass Cultural Council.
Well, it's the Mass Cultural Council.
And the purpose of it, too.
Yeah, the Mass Cultural Council looks around the Commonwealth, and they see towns or areas that really need to be part of their whole cultural experience. So I know that and this was before I actually came on, but there's a whole application portion of this. Then there's obviously some vetting that would have to go on. And then in 2014, I think we were then awarded the 27th Cultural Council in the Commonwealth. And our district runs from Court Street, Main Street, downtown, wrap around down to the waterfront, all the way over to Village Landing. And I think we've got probably about anywhere from 130 to 150 assets, which would include, artist guilds, cultural locations like the Spire, restaurants, retail, and we've got 4 or 5 breweries and distilleries now in Plymouth, and so they're all part of this district. So what our mission really is to collaborate and coordinate different events that we feel that we can be a part of, that we can sort of be a catalyst for, but also to be able to bring these entities together to really create just a great experience for the visitors. As we know, we've got the history here, but I think that there's more to Plymouth than just 1620. And then once the 2020 is over, which is going to be here before we know it, the 400th anniversary, well, what's going to sustain Plymouth? And when you look around Plymouth now, when I first moved here in 2001, there were shops boarded up on Main Street, downtown. Businesses were struggling. And now Plymouth, as you know, has really become an incredible destination, not just for the history, but for the culture, the artist guilds that we have, the Plymouth Center for the Arts, which has just been doing phenomenal. And then the restaurants. I mean, we've got 15 plus different restaurants with all different types of ethnic foods. And when I first moved here, I used to tease that, Plymouth was sort of the redheaded stepchild between Boston and the Cape. But now it's truly become a destination. And most people that I know, they come to Plymouth for the day, do an overnight, versus, trying to hassle getting down to the Cape.
Yeah, and even, I've got older daughters, as you know, and even for the nightlife and all that, I mean, they much rather come to Plymouth than Boston, and you see that population coming here now.
Yeah.
How much of a difference do you think the Plymouth Bay Cultural District actually added to that? Yeah, we did add more restaurants and all that, but how do you think that kind of added to that?
Well, we're still sort of in our infancy.
Yeah.
We're the Artweek, which we're going to be talking about shortly, but last year we during the Plymouth Chambers Waterfront Festival, the businesses uptown always like, yeah, sure, everybody comes into Plymouth, but they all go down to the waterfront. So what we did was we blocked off North Street, which was already sort of blocked off because it's used as an emergency exit entrance for ambulances because of the waterfront. But we worked with the town as well as the chamber, and we had, artists, visual artists painting on the sidewalks. We had musicians, like just acoustic guitars, on the sidewalk, and we were really trying to create a funnel to bring people up North Street during that event, because you get 30,000+ people for that one day, and then having them, walk into downtown Plymouth and be able to spend their money. So I think as we start to build upon this, we did Shakespeare in the Park last year. We'll be doing it again this August 19th, but at the Hedge House, which is going to be which is going to be a lot of fun. And so little by little, we're finding, as I told Paul Cripps, we're trying to find our little niche.
Destination Plymouth.
From Destination Plymouth, because they're more of a, national, international marketing arm, if you will, for Plymouth. And what the Cultural District is really looking to do is to just, find our little niche, which is really going to be bringing people locally, again, whether it's Plymouth residents, the visitors, which can be through the South Shore, the Cape, north of Boston, Quincy area, but bringing them down here, as a destination. And, one of the things that we look to do is we've got a website, plymouthbayculture.org, where anybody, whether you're even in our district or not, you can go onto that website, upper right-hand corner says submit an event, and you can actually post it on our calendar. We have, by month calendars, people can pull up the calendar. And, we've got the conservatory in Hingham that is always promoting their events, Situate. So we're really looking to be, our website to be a one-stop shop if you want to find, music, theater, any cultural events. We're hoping that people will start, and it's free, which rings everybody's, ears. Sure. So that's what we're looking to do, and if we can continue to collaborate and bring visitors to the downtown area, what our mission is to get them into the businesses' doors and ring the registers.
Yeah, right. I was actually, when I was on the Board of Selectmen, I think it was around 2012, my cousin, my family was coming to Plymouth on a regular basis. My cousin was coming here, and she said to me, you really should have this cultural, be named a cultural district. So what are you talking about? And she told me about it, and I think it was at Easton when she lives, that they were given that tag. And so that's when we started kind of looking into it to see what it meant. But tell people what some of the qualifiers are, because it's not an easy thing to get this district in place.
Well, I know that you've got to be not just willing to participate, but you've got to be active. And matter of fact, I just got the email from Mary Jenkins, who heads up the Mass Cultural Council. And so we've got our annual report coming, and in there they want to know, are you attracting events that bring in families and kids? Are they multicultural? Are they multi-ethnic? So, are you getting a good broad representation of not just the people within your town or your city in regards to the residents, but are you having events that are pulling all types of people to those events? And so we got a lot of great things we'd like to do. Obviously, money is a big part of that.
Because it doesn't come with money. The tag doesn't come with money.
Doesn't come with any money.
But they still keep an eye on you, though, to make sure you're still on track, and because it is very prestigious to have that district tag to you.
Yeah. So when we first took over, I think we had maybe $274 in our checking account, and of course, coming from an advertising marketing background, we decided to create a brochure map that lists all the assets on there, and then I sold advertising on the bottom of that to local businesses, and that raised enough money for us to start doing some things. The VSB has been more than helpful and just wonderful. The Visitor Service Bureau to be able to grant us monies for different events. We just took over from the chamber the 7 message boards, the big 50 by 42 message boards that we have around town. There's one at the East Bay Grill parking lot, one on the back side of the information center, Nelson Beach, bottom of North Street, And I just got approval for one right on South Russell, right below the Gunther Tooties sign.
Yeah, nice.
So we're going to be really doing things to, again, promote anything and everything that's going on in Plymouth for the people.
That's terrific. And so it's made up of, you have a board?
Yeah, we have a board. There's myself as the chair. Melissa Kenny is my vice chair. We have Amy Naples from the Chamber as our treasurer, and then Dottie Pock is our secretary.
Okay, great.
And then we have, committees, always looking for more volunteers. Our committee has kind of shrunk a little bit. People originally jumped on the whole cultural thing, and then, of course, as you know, with a non-volunteer, people start to go by the wayside. So I'm looking to, bring in some new people, some new blood, some new energy. I just got both Eddie Murray and Jesse Fries from the Art Shop, which is right across from Memorial Hall.
Oh, yeah. Great
and
people.
They're doing some events, too, for Art Week, but they are just stoked. And they also are just amazed at the cultural district, but also just how this town embraces all of that as well.
Yeah. Well, you've brought up Art Week, so let's talk about it. So as of this taping, Art Week is starting today. It's April 27th to May 6th, and we're going to get this on the air by May 1st. But tell people what Art Week is, and that was another very prestigious thing to actually get.
Well, Art Week started, I think, for Art Week Boston in 2013, and there were just a handful of, whether they were towns, I don't know, or they were part of cultural districts. I'm not exactly sure how that happened, but there's Boston, there was the Cape, and so this was the first year that they decided to do it statewide, and so they blew their expectations out of the water. There's 525 events this week and next week for Art Week across the Commonwealth, which is fantastic. When we first got wind of this in November of last year, we were like saying, okay, maybe if we get a dozen, maybe 15 events that we could do, we ended up topping out at 24, which was just fantastic.
Oh my God, wow.
So we've got events that start today. Most of the events are free. Most of the events are children orientated as well. Tomorrow actually starts at the New Again, which is on South Avenue. It's the Ferry Door Trail. And
I've heard a lot about this.
Yes.
And then you and I did a show, The Talk of the Town, recently talking about
we
this.
talked about that as well,
this,
And so Jane Kelly, who is Keyhole Creations Studio, she went to Ireland and saw these ferry doors that, in some cases, they're like this big. And so what we're doing, she got 28 local businesses to participate. She then connected them with 28 different artists to create these ferry doors. We're going to put them in the retail locations. There's going to be one at the Plymouth Library. There's going to be one at the Pilgrim Hall Museum. The kids then can download or go to the Plymouth Library, John Carver Inn, and get a ferry door trail map. And it shows you all 28 locations. And once you finish that, you bring your completed map to the Plymouth Center for the Arts. They, in turn, will give you an official certified or certificate that you've completed the ferry door trail. And the best thing about it, again, it's kid-orientated. And so, as Jane says, is make sure you bring your best ferry attire. So hopefully we're going to see dozens and dozens and dozens of kids walking around Plymouth in their little ferry outfits.
Yeah. What are some of the other highlights? Now, again, it runs from the 27th to May 6th, but what are
we've got the art shop's doing a couple events tomorrow, and then we have again, like I said, the ferry door trail. There's a Nebri Art with Andy Driscoll. He's going to be doing some stuff at Plymouth Hall or Plymouth Memorial. We've also got at the Second Wind Brewery. I think that might be $15. You actually go in and you get a mug and you get to paint your own beer mug. So I can't paint worth my life, but I'm going to be there anyways because it should be fun. We've got Mark T. Small, very well-known blues guitar player, an award-winning blues guitar player, who's going to be at the Plymouth Library on May 3rd, 7 to 8:30 p.m. I think it is. And he's going to be doing the history of the guitar. So it's going to be part lecture and part performance. And that's really what the Art Week is all about, is finding unique events that can be interactive with your audiences.
And it really wasn't that difficult to find these events. They just kind of come to you in a lot of cases?
I mean, the most amazing one was Paul and Jean Quintal of Plymouth cruises
Yeah,
that have the
Plymouth
lobster
cruises,
tail.
yeah.
So we just sent out, again, an email to all of our assets, you know, is anybody interested? Well, I think they were one of the first to submit to Artweek Boston, which is part of the Bach Foundation, Ernie Bach, obviously his involvement with music, and Ernie the Mechanics, which was made up of all the old band members from Boston. And so what they're gonna do is they're gonna take artists out to the harbor and sort of just putt around, but artists, whether you paint, sketch, do photography, are going to go by the lighthouse and the bug light for them to actually be right out there being able to paint.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And of course, the lobsters that we have out there. Talk about that,
Yeah,
that event.
great idea with Amy and Bob over at the Plymouth Chamber is, you know, everybody, I mean, and as you know, people from all over the world come here and we're seeing them take selfies with these lobsters. And I've always wanted to know, because every lobster is different. Well, they're going to have the artists who painted those and designed those actually in front of their lobsters during this event, so people can come up and talk to the artists that did those paintings.
Yeah.
You know, so we've got that. We've got the Plymouth Philharmonic will be this Saturday, and they're going to be doing their Unbound Passion, but they're also going to do a free discussion prior to the event if people are interested in going to that. Next Saturday, we've got, again, more events, Swinging for the Troops.
Yeah, I saw that.
And just, again, just so many cool things.
Yeah, it really is. And I'm just going to show this to the camera. But again, we'll be airing this on May 1st. But hopefully people, when they start seeing this, they'll see what the events are. And for people who are seeing this after May 6th, they have something to look forward to next year. So,
and they can go onto our website, plymouthbayculture.org. They can download that actual schedule on there, or they can go on to our Facebook page, which is Plymouth Bay Cultural District, and be able to see all the events that we'll be posting there throughout the whole next 10 days.
Andrew, thank you so much for
Matt,
being on.
thank you, sir.
Thank you for at home for watching today. Thank you, Ben, for your help with the show. And until next time, we'll see you at Dawn State Matters.